I have lived long enough to know that one of the greatest prisons a man can build is not made of stone or steel. It is built from the opinions of others. Many people live their entire existence behind invisible bars, chained by the fear of what someone else might think. They go to jobs they despise, wear clothes they dislike, and even deny their own ambitions, not because it is what they truly want, but because they are terrified of disapproval. I must tell you plainly, if you are allowing the opinions of others to govern your decisions, you have surrendered the very key to your own destiny. The moment you hand over your right to define yourself, you no longer live your own life. You live as a puppet pulled by strings of judgment, gossip, and expectation. I recall countless times when I was told, "Napoleon, that idea will never work." When I first began my work in studying the principles of success, I was warned by many well-meaning individuals to find a safer, more respectable pursuit. They said I was wasting my time speaking of dreams, persistence, and riches of the mind. Had I listened to them, I would have betrayed the very purpose for which I was put on this earth. And here is the truth: most people who criticize you are not speaking from knowledge, they are speaking from their own limitations. They are telling you what they believe they could or could not do. Their words are reflections of their own self-image, not accurate measurements of your potential. If you understand that, you free yourself from the need to respond to every opinion. You must remember, no one ever erected a monument to a critic. It is not the doubter, the gossip, or the coward whose name survives history. It is the man or woman who dared to act on their own vision. The Wright brothers were told flight was impossible. Edison was told his light bulb was folly. Ford was mocked for thinking the common man could afford an automobile. But they each possessed something that protected them from public opinion, a burning desire and an unshakable belief in their own vision. You will never satisfy everyone. Some will admire you, some will oppose you, and most will simply not care. Why then should you distort your life to please those who are indifferent or hostile to your dreams? Better to stand alone in the truth of your own purpose than to stand in a crowd built on compromise. The habit of seeking approval is a form of mental slavery. It makes you timid where you should be bold, hesitant where you should be decisive. And worst of all, it makes you live for applause instead of achievement. Let me be clear, your worth is not determined by the clapping of hands. It is determined by the character you build, the service you render, and the goals you achieve in alignment with your own definite chief aim. If you would rise to success, you must break the invisible chain that binds you to the judgment of others, not by defiance for its own sake, but by loyalty to your own vision. This is the first step toward mastery of yourself and, therefore, mastery of your destiny. There is a subtle danger in listening too closely to the opinions of others. It is that they often sound reasonable. A friend will say, "I just don't want you to get hurt." A family member will advise, "You have to be realistic." A coworker may caution, "That's risky, you should stick with what's safe." On the surface, these words seem harmless, even caring. But if you are not careful, they become the soft voice that lulls you back into mediocrity. You begin to doubt your own vision, to shrink your dreams so they will not offend anyone's sense of what is possible. And before you realize it, you are living someone else's life, safe, predictable, and utterly void of the fire that once burned in you. I must remind you of a principle I have repeated for decades. What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The key word in that statement is believe. Belief is the fertile soil from which every great achievement grows. But if you allow the weeds of other people's doubts to take root in that soil, your belief will wither before the first sprout appears. Many men and women fail not because they lacked ability, but because they allowed someone else's disbelief to seep into their own minds. This is why I urge you to guard your thoughts as a fortress guards its gates. Permit only those influences that strengthen your belief, sharpen your vision, and remind you of your purpose. If you must take counsel from others, take it from those who have already walked the path you wish to travel. Seek the opinion of those whose lives bear the fruit of achievement, not those who merely speak of what cannot be done. I would rather have the harshest criticism from a man who has succeeded than the sweetest encouragement from one who has never tried. One will sharpen my edge, the other will dull it with false comfort. There is also a psychological truth you must grasp. The more you seek approval, the more you train others to believe that their opinion is more valuable than your own. And once they sense your dependence, they will continue to shape your decisions, whether consciously or unconsciously. You will become a reflection of their values, their fears, and their limitations. I have seen brilliant minds waste away because they were too concerned with fitting in. They traded the discomfort of being misunderstood for the comfort of belonging to the average. But the price of such belonging is far too high. It costs you your individuality, your initiative, and ultimately, your destiny. Understand this greatness is almost always met with resistance at first. When you step outside the boundaries of common thinking, you threaten the comfort of those who have settled within it. They may mock you, doubt you, or even try to pull you back. Do not be alarmed. This is not a sign that you are wrong. It is often the clearest sign that you are right. If I had waited for the world's approval before speaking about the principles of success, I would still be waiting today. Progress does not come to those who ask permission. It comes to those who claim it. Let the world adjust to your vision. Do not adjust your vision to the world. I've often said that success begins in the mind, and it ends there too. Your greatest victories will be born from thoughts you protect like treasure, and your greatest defeats will come when you allow those thoughts to be stolen by doubt. Most people never realize that every time they yield to someone else's negative opinion, they have surrendered a portion of their own mental kingdom. Let me illustrate this. A young man once came to me with a grand idea for a business, something truly original, with the power to change his industry. But before he began, he shared his idea with an old friend. That friend laughed and said, "If it were that easy, someone else would have done it by now." The young man hesitated, thought about the risk, and soon abandoned his plan altogether. Months later, he learned that another man, unaware of the conversation, had started the same kind of business and succeeded beyond measure. Do you see the tragedy here? It wasn't the marketplace that defeated him. It wasn't a lack of skill or resources. It was the weight of one careless opinion that crushed the seed before it had a chance to grow. This is why I tell you, never expose your most delicate dreams to those who have a habit of trampling on them. In the early stages, your vision is like a flame in the wind. It must be shielded until it grows into a fire that no gust can extinguish. Once your belief is solid, then you can withstand the storms of criticism, but not before. Another truth you must grasp is that people's opinions of you are rarely about you at all. They are filtered through their own fears, failures, and limitations. A man who failed in business will warn you not to start one. A person who never traveled will tell you the world is dangerous. They are not describing reality. They are describing the walls they have built in their own minds. If you wish to rise above this, you must set your own standards. You must measure yourself not by the shifting winds of public opinion, but by the steady compass of your definite chief aim. Ask yourself, does this action bring me closer to my purpose? Does this decision honor my values? If the answer is yes, then move forward with conviction, regardless of what the crowd says. It is a fact of life that those who dare to live by their own vision will be misunderstood. At first, people may call you arrogant, stubborn, or unrealistic. But if you stay the course, if you keep producing results, those same voices will one day call you wise, disciplined, even visionary. The world rarely applauds you until it can no longer ignore you. Remember, your life is yours to live. No one else will carry the consequences of your choices but you. So why should they have the final say? Let them keep their opinions. You have a destiny to fulfill. I want to impress this upon your mind. The opinions of others are just that, opinions. They are not laws. They are not prophecies. They are not chains you are obligated to wear. Yet most men walk through life as though every word spoken about them has the power to rewrite their fate. When I was conducting my research for Think and Grow Rich, I met hundreds of individuals who achieved remarkable success in their fields. Not one of them told me they got there by being universally liked. On the contrary, most of them admitted they were criticized, doubted, and sometimes openly ridiculed in the early stages of their careers. The difference was that they treated criticism as background noise, not as a compass. They did not measure their progress by applause. They measured it by how faithfully they pursued their own definite chief aim. You see, if you allow yourself to be guided by the voices of others, your direction will change with every new opinion. One day you will be urged to go left. The next day someone will insist you go right. Before long, you will be standing in the same spot where you began, dizzy from all the turning, with nothing accomplished. I have a simple test to help you determine whether an opinion deserves your attention. Ask yourself, does this person have the results I desire? Has this person walked the road I wish to travel? If the answer is no, then their opinion is like advice from a man who has never left his own front porch. It may be heartfelt, but it cannot guide you to the mountaintop. When I began to write about the principles of success, I was warned that the world had no appetite for such ideas. Some said my work was naive. Others claimed it was dangerous to teach people that they could think for themselves and rise above their circumstances. If I had given those voices power, the book you know today as Think and Grow Rich would never have been written, and millions would have been denied the opportunity to learn those principles. This is why I urge you to trust the quiet conviction within you more than the loud doubts around you. That inner voice, if guided by a clear purpose and disciplined thought, is your most reliable advisor. It will not flatter you into complacency, nor will it discourage you from growth. Understand this: the masses often reject what they do not understand. If you are doing something new, something bold, they will try to fit you into the frame of their own limited vision. Do not let them. You have but one life, and no man has the right to dictate how you will live it. Accept constructive feedback when it sharpens your skill, but never surrender your compass to someone who's not steering the same ship. Let me leave you with this truth: the world will always have something to say about you. If you succeed, they will question your methods. If you fail, they will question your ability. If you try something bold, they will question your sanity. If you remain still, they will question your ambition. You cannot escape opinion, so stop trying. What you can do is decide whose voice will have the final say in your life. Let it be your own, informed by your purpose, strengthened by your persistence, and guided by the principles you have chosen for yourself. When you strip away the noise, you will find that most opinions are temporary. The same person who doubts you today may praise you tomorrow if the winds change, and if you live for that praise, you will find yourself chasing an ever-moving target. But if you live for your vision, you will move in a straight line toward your destiny, no matter which way the winds blow. I have often said that every man must have a definite chief aim. That aim is your anchor in the storm of public opinion. Without it, you drift from one idea to the next, from one influence to another, never finding solid ground. With it, you develop the power to say, "This is my course, and I will not be turned from it, not by praise, not by criticism, not by fear." You will discover something else along the way. The more certain you are of your own path, the less you care about the path others think you should take. When you no longer beg for approval, you gain respect. When you no longer depend on validation, you gain freedom. And when you no longer fear disapproval, you gain power, the power to live as you choose. I challenge you to make this choice today. From this moment forward, refuse to surrender your destiny to another man's opinion. Decide that your energy will be spent in building, not explaining, in advancing, not apologizing, in creating, not conforming. If you do this, if you commit yourself to living by the clear call of your own purpose, you will find a peace and a strength that no amount of applause or criticism can shake. The world will still talk, as it always has, but you will walk with the quiet assurance of a man who knows who he is and where he is going. And that, my friend, is the beginning of true freedom.